Okay. Kind of strange. Like Skype has a new update of some
Bit
kind.
dark, but people by now are used to
Um,
my fucked up Skype sessions.
how about this?
Much better. I don't know how the audio's
Okay.
going.
Yeah. Okay. I move the webcam. It looks like I'm more in the center now.
Yeah, if you can face it a little bit further down, because I've just got your head.
Okay.
Pull the top towards yourself.
This?
That's it. Perfect. Yeah, I don't know how the audio is going to fare up. It seemed like it's okay, not breaking up. Some countries it's just a proper nightmare, and I can't seem to get to head or tail of it, and so I just kind of like resign myself to the serenity prayer. Some things I will just never be able to master that.
Well, I'm not quite sure it has anything to do with mastering. It seems to me like these glitches still happen on certain feeds and not on others. And it's very funny to see it if you watch anything that is coming from the truth movement. In the beginning, I thought like, oh, these guys are all, poor people. They don't have money to buy good equipment. But in the end, I'm seeing certain channels where every time they start to talk about certain topics, then suddenly it will start glitching. It will start, sound will fade away, or suddenly there will be technical issues. We're linked to a mainframe, and whoever is controlling the mainframe computer is capable of inserting, keywords or whatever, and then create havoc. Just, how do you say, an idea that I had about it.
Well,
From seeing.
there's probably a good deal of truth in that. One of my viewers and friends have sent me a list compiled by somebody else of all the sites, to their knowledge, that have been taken down. And there's, I'm going to be posting it on the site in the forum in one of those sections. But there's like 60 or 70 of big sites, and I didn't even make the listing because obviously I'm too minuscule. There is probably hundreds of thousands of people being struck off. There is a massive conspiracy to eradicate people who speak the truth, who are speaking about any of the things that they just don't want said and heard. And so there's something that's going to be really taking shape very, very soon. And this is just the beginning. This is the whole 1984. You can see excerpts of 1984 where William Hurt, the star in that, his job is to change history, and what he has to do, he has to look at all what was written about this and that, burn all those documents and recreate new documents and archive the new ones. And this stuff has been going on for a long time. It's getting more and more pervasive, and the whole Big Brother looking at you through the television, well, that's a reality now. Even spying on you via your fridge, listening to you from your fridge. There was somebody in China. See, China's getting it bad as well. What's happening to people in China is that they're buying airline tickets to go on business or vacation or something like this. They get into the airport, and then the computer is saying no. Literally, just that. You are not authorised to board this flight. And they are being imprisoned, and they are having all of their facility, which they use via the metrics, the credit cards and all this stuff which you need to function, as soon as they consider you against the state, that's it, you're over. You're struck off, and so you're on the street, and This is something that, we've been warned about for a long, long time, and now the reality of it is actually upon us. The world is going to be in a very, very curious place in no time at all.
It reminds me of Enemy of the State. You know that movie with Will Smith and Gene Hackman?
Yeah.
Where, when he discovers something and then he gets erased from all systems, they create fake events around his personality to basically kill him from his family, from, these movies are total examples of what is possible. I mean, no one would deny after watching these movies that it would be possible. And only gullible people will continue to claim that, every government has our own best interest at heart, and that they would never lie to us, and they're in charge because they're so smart and so amazing, and we the poor people just have to bow down to them. So it's a lot of people are willfully accepting the 1984 scenario, and I don't remember who said that recently, but the guy said some people you could just put the evidence in their face and they would still deny it and continue to live in their head, because they create the illusion of a safety bubble, and whatever is outside that safety bubble that doesn't jive with their inner safety image, they will reject, and they will, like in the Matrix movie where when Morpheus says to Neo that all the people who are in the Matrix, some of them, will defend it to the point that they would die for it, for that system where they're entrapped in, and that's a reality, unfortunately.
That is the reality. The human being is a very, very curious thing. Just let me correct myself. I said William Hurt. It's in actual fact John Hurt.
John.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. I was speaking to Doug Michael last night, and we touched on some of this stuff. And
I've seen your interview.
Yeah, and goodness me, I mean, what can we make of it all? There's so many ways that we can look at what is actually going on, what appears to be going on in this illusion, that it's just so amazingly difficult to know. And at the end of the day, I think the thing to do about it is just to disengage from it as much as we possibly can, just to opt out, because it's all a charade. And I don't think there's any future for our stillness of mind and heart if we engage in it, if we have anything to do with it. It is a great addiction. We have been born into it, and slowly we've been immersed in it. It's difficult. It's a difficult addiction to break, but I think that we have to start breaking it. And the thing is about it is that what people like myself have done with our sites is we've made contacts all over the world, and we've found like-minded people, and we have come together, and it's a marvelous thing. But the only way we can maintain those relationships is by partaking in this bullshit. And they're trying us, and they're testing us, and they're trying to cripple us and stifle us and stop us at every given opportunity.
Yeah, very true. I mean, we have to use the technology to communicate like we're doing right now, knowing that whatever we are saying can be watched by anyone who really,
we're being watched, we're being listened to, all the key words we're saying are being recorded.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure. Well, you can be resignated, or you can be optimistic. I try to take the second option. My conclusion to all the things that we know, from chemtrailing, poisoning the water, fluoride, and etc. I'm not going to name the whole list. My instinct tells me that if they are going to such an extent to put all these poisonous thing in everything, whether even in the sound, about the 44 hertz, 30 hertz.
Yeah.
If they are going to such an extent to do all these things, it's basically because they're fucking scared of us. There is no other explanation. Would you go to such an extent to keep the sheep in the stable? You know, I mean, look at it from our perspective to the cattle and the things that we manage. We don't need to go to all these extended layers of illusions, of deception, and of everything, because we just know how to easily manage these sheep. Now, the fact that they don't easily manage us, despite the fact that they're in the power, is a paradox, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're in full power and you're, you know, above everyone and being, you know, like this superhuman. Let's say you had superhuman powers and you would not have any empathy towards humanity. You know, like Superman in or one of the X-Men, and you would just, you know, tell people it's my way or the highway, and whoever would not comply, you would rule, you know, over them simply by fear, because they would know that they stand no chance against you. The fact that they are manipulating us for thousands of years, from what I understand, even if time is a concept that I think has been actually put into this matrix, which I don't think is a real concept of the outside the matrix thing. But it shows me again that there is a reason why they are keeping us. They are trying to dumb us down. They are trying to avoid the awakening. Because if you look at all these things like chemtrails, etc., these things have started to gain momentum when the internet started booming with a lot of truth seekers.
Yeah.
And whistleblowers. As soon as these things started happening, it looks like the powers in charge realized that they made a mistake by thinking they would have this tool only to control us, when we knew how to use it to our advantage as well, because every coin has two sides. At that point, they probably panicked and they started to bring up their game, you know, and infiltrate stuff. And the things they cannot infiltrate, they will at some point, because of their lack of imagination, they will just shut you down. I mean, you know, that's the child who, if you don't comply with what he wants, then I'm not gonna play. You know, and that's the entire attitude that you see from these powers that be, which again is another paradox. Like, you know, are we managed by children-minded like creatures or people? It's weird, you know. I've been working all my life with Forbes 500 clients, and I always realized when I was talking to these people how little of them were really smart. You know, you would imagine these billionaires are billionaires because they were so smart, they outsmart everybody. No, a lot of the times these people are so disconnected to normal reality. They have weird ways of wanting stuff, you know, as if at some point I really started to believe, David Icke, that some of these people are not, or whatever is inside the meat suit is not human, you know?
Yeah.
I don't believe in this whole shape-shifting that, you know, people will see like a lizard or the concept of having something inside this meat suit that is not like you and me. I came to the conclusion, and I make an analogy with video games. When you play a video game, you, the player, you have the nemesis, the guys you need to walk out that are usually other players, and then you have the NPCs, which you call automatons, which are the non-player characters that are there in the background to fill up the space and create, you know, dynamic scenery.
Yeah.
And if you look around you in the world, that's what I see. I see certain people who are apparently doing the same scenario over and over again. And I used to believe, like, you know, these people are probably weak-minded, or they, you know, they don't have this willingness to know more. But at some point, because they've never changed, you know, we recently moved back to the town where I grew up, which I had left for probably about 20 years. And so when we moved back here, I met a lot of these guys from back then. They were never really friends, but they were, you know, the guys like from your school. And And aside from the fact that they've aged, they talk the same, they have the same vocabulary, they have the same limited conversation capacities. And as soon as you start trying to talk about certain topics, like the topics that we can talk about, these people will always have the same reaction, which is change the topic at all costs or leave. Find an excuse to like. And I used to believe, these people are probably scared about talking about these stuff. But now I start believing that these people are just NPCs. They're not real. They're real in the physical matrix that we perceive, but they don't have that light inside of them like you and I have, with this curiosity, with wanting to know more about who we are, where we came from, what the purpose of this is.
I don't know whether can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, can you see that? Maybe, I don't know whether you can see that. I've goose pimply, because what you're saying, Patrick, is absolutely in line with what I think. And somebody sent me, it was Rachel who sent me a dialogue. It's about, I don't know, 1,500 words long, something like this. Takes you about 15 minutes to read. And I've posted it under the spiritual section in the forum. And basically, it is saying this. It is saying we are in this sort of simulation, and it's all a test. We've come here to see if we can rise up through it. There is a certain power source which is manipulating us. They're not evil. They're the same as us, really, but they've came here to do us. And so, with the adversary that we are endeavouring to rise, because if we don't rise above, if we cannot learn about what we are and about our everlasting consciousness, and this is just a freaking game. It's the Truman Show. If we can't learn that whilst we're here, then we will have to keep coming back again in this, cyclical sort of thing until we actually do manage to ascend beyond this realm, where we will go to a total recall experience somewhere else. Now, when I was on shrooms, primarily, this is what I experienced. I experienced many variety of energy, and some of them are absolutely empty, complete automata void. And these are the sort of things. If you remember the Will Smith film about the aliens, Men in Black. He goes in to the gun shop and he says, like, okay, we're looking for a Cypothalid or Cypophorus or whatever this particular creature is called. Have you sold one of these guns to a Cypothalus? And he's going, and he's saying, look, I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you again, because what he's doing is, you see, this thing is pretending it's a human being, and Will is into the creature inside. Yeah, and so what happens is, Will takes out his gun and he shoots him. He blows his fucking head off. And then there's this little thing inside that goes, okay. Yeah, you've got me. Yeah, I did sell one to so-and-so. Well, it seems to me that the programs that are given to these automated creatures, it is simply a rule system whereby it is stated in the rules that if you are asked by a creature like us, whatever we're called, if you know anything about the third dimension or the fourth dimension, or if you know anything about the hidden hand state and things like that, then what you do is you go, and your head explodes. And so this is a very, very curious thing, because like you say, it's almost exactly the same every single time you try to confront one of these people, or you try to price something out, or you just try to inquire, what is it that you know about this? All of a sudden they feel as if being interrogated, and there's a real objection within them, and it will make manifest with anger, usually, or complete dismissal, whereby they've got an urgency to get out of your vicinity. It's a very curious thing.
Yeah, well, these NPCs, I think they're running, like in any game, they're running on a script. And I tend to believe, because all the people I know around me who are like you, all have the same stories. We all have certain people around us that every time we are trying to do something, they will come and tell us how stupid we are, or how we should and it could be someone from your family, it can be a close friend, it can be a working colleague. But there is always these people that seems to be not mind their own business, and have this urge to always come and try to tell you that you're going wrong, that you should stop being stupid. They always try to bring you down with words, everything. And if you stop and look at the situation and start thinking logically, very often you will see that there is no link to that. There is no reason. It's like, if you go on the Flat Earth videos, you will see something which I find very compelling. Is I don't watch them, but I just go to the comment section. I will look like, let's say 50 Flat Earth videos, and then I will immediately go to the comment section, and I will see the same names commenting on each of these 200 videos, telling these people how fucking stupid they are to believe in the Flat Earth. It doesn't make sense. Have you ever seen a hard rocker, a heavy metal trash guy go and watch disco videos to then comment and tell them that their music is ridiculous? No, It doesn't make sense. When you are a normal human being, if you don't agree with something, you're not going to watch it. You're going to watch something that you agree with. I don't see Christians going and watch Muslim videos and then saying, Christians are much better. No, it doesn't make any sense. There is no point to doing that, unless, so some people say, they're paid. Paid, okay. I know money is an illusion as well. So when you control everything, you don't need to pay. If you know how to make these meat suits and then program them, the only thing to do is activate your bots. And I occasionally play poker online, and I can also see it. I started to pick up some patterns of certain players, and what I started to do to see whether they were real players or not, I started to insult them, but really, to an extent that anyone would just at least respond to me, fuck off or shut up.
Yeah.
No, you can insult them for hours. They will never respond. And they will always have certain patterns on how they play their hands, which shows that there is a program behind it. And so, of course, virtually it is understandable. You are on a computer, whatever is presented to you, you don't know what is behind. But in real life, I think it is, movies, games, everything is a reflection of what exists.
Yes, exactly. And you can see that looking at the game now, it seems perfectly reasonable to me that this game that's generated this poker is going to have bots playing, because there's nothing that's going to cripple the business. As if someone goes online and there's nobody playing that particular night, or there's only a few people, or maybe there's the same old people and you want to play against somebody else, something like this. And so therefore the bots are created, because there's always going to be somebody there. Maybe the bots have different programs sometimes, and so they give the illusion of somebody else joining in. On the games, when you look at the games, all these games that kids are playing, it's all designed to lead the human mind into the future, what the Hidden Hand wants to create. It's to diminish the sensibility to violence, even though you see in the abstract they're absolutely against violence and this, and they said it themselves, you see, but they are promoting violence in all the movies that come out, in all the videos and on all sorts of things. It's such a contradiction, it's such a paradox, it's absolutely incredible to try to get your head around, until you just step back and you say, well, this is so mad, it's so irrational, it has to be a freaking dream. It has to be some sort of a program to get you to either to be absolutely complicit in it, in which case you're so stupid that you need to come back again and again and again. Either
I diverge a little bit on that, Aaron. I don't believe we're here by choice. That's my first input.
Right.
And I think we are being trapped here, and the recycle thing is another way to keep us inside. I don't think it has anything to do with us awakening. I think it has to do with whoever is created this thing and is in charge of the thing wants to keep us inside the thing. It wouldn't make any sense to create a game, a simulation for learning purposes where the student who is coming to learn could eventually never make it because the illusion is so strong. And don't forget that we all get born with the same I don't know how you call that, like in handicap, like in a game,
Yeah.
We are born with a handicap because when we are born, first of all, we get fed a lot of data that comes from our surroundings. So basically, when we are at the age where we can start to make sense of things and think for ourselves, 75% of the playing field has been corrupted and is unable to realize what is going on and just, follows the script and then dies and then would come back. It doesn't, if you go to learn something, let's say you came here and you Aaron, and now suddenly you die, and then suddenly you are told, okay, you need to go back because there are a certain amount of stuff that you didn't learn. Oh, okay, you say, no problem. Now, my first question to these beings who would tell me, you have to go back would be, if I go back, can I go back when I'm like 21 and I need to skip all the bullshit school that I've done over and over again and learn to write and read again?
Yeah.
Must I have to learn again 1, 2, 3 until 10? Doesn't make any sense. Why would we go into a simulation where we're going to be spending at least the 18th first years of our life learning back again what we've learned over and over again?
Yes, brilliant. Now, let me posit this one to you then, because what happened in my life is that I was this matrixial guy. I was entirely intent on building my empire and gathering as much material goods as I could and as much power via money to impress all the people around me and to rise myself up out of the mire and to be in a position whereby I could have anything I wanted from this world. And it was going pretty well, Patrick, and until I was very, very compromised in a certain region when I was in Africa. And what happened is, it's kind of like, if you can picture this then, this entity called Aaron Berry, up until he was, say, like, I don't know how old I was, say like 47 years old or something like this, that was one facet. But then, it's kind of like, well, okay, this is where you step in. You go into Aaron Berry at 47 years old because this is the challenge that you've got. And so at 47 years old, I became a different person. I became somebody entirely realized, and many, many things within me changed, and I viewed the world a whole lot differently. And so you could say that, well, you slipped into another dimension then. At that particular point, you slipped into another dimension and you continued your experience whereby you were savvy, you were compos mentis, and all of a sudden you're looking this around and you go, okay, right, I'm here now. What's happened? Oh, goodness me. I've got all this history coming up to here, but now I'm a different person because I see this world in a different way. I've got different challenges and I'm going to be going in a different direction. And so there's so many things to take into consideration with the parallel universe is that, every second we're in and out of another one. Well, I don't know about that, but what I've seen in my life is that for sure there has been times when I felt that I should have died and I didn't die and continue to live. But I think to myself, there was one occasion when I had a scuba diving experience where I got nitrogen narcosis and I was absolutely terrified. And this is what nitrogen narcosis can do. It can either put you in a great euphoria where you feel absolutely beautiful, or it can make you absolutely panic-stricken, terrified. And I had both of those, and I was that on this particular occasion. When I came out of that water, I felt that I cheated death, absolutely. And I felt that I had actually died for a whole month after. And I was looking around and I'm going, is this me? Is this really me? Or did I go home in a body bag and did my family mourn me, and all this sort of thing. I swear, Patrick, I stepped into a parallel universe, and I continue to live. If you look at it like this, we can die in many, many ways. And when we do, in one dimension, all the people around think, oh, that person died. But if you do not die, if all you do is you only die in this one dimension, but you continue in another dimension where you don't die, then it seems like it's a better story. It makes more sense and logic to keep this spiritual thing going. Now, if there's one thing that we can have a consensus on, that the spirit never dies, then why every time we die here do we have to go back and, like you say, Patrick, start again? I don't think we do. I think that there's many times in our lives when we are challenged in such a way that there's something happened to the program, and that's then when we have to slip into another parallel universe to continue with the knowledge that we've got. Because it wouldn't work in the life that we was living before.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't believe in this whole theory of, we came here by choice and we are very happy. Again, I'm going to take a very simple example. We know daily, worldwide, infants between 6 months and 2 years old get slaughtered, raped, or whatever crap that some people do to them. If we have decided to come and have that experience, then we are fucking sick in our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
We are weird creatures, and we deserve to be in the shit we are in because we are weird from the get-go. And I don't believe in that. I see when there are certain events happening, solidarity kicks in. The instinct, the primary instinct that we have is to get together and not to isolate ourselves from the rest. We want social interactions. We want to be capable of. I mean, what would your mind be if you had no one to respond to you? You would go insane. You would not enjoy life because you would have all this knowledge, but you would not be able to share it with anyone. You would not be able to do anything with it. So you would be basically like a very intelligent being in a void of nothingness, doing nothing for eternity.
Hence consciousness.
Yeah. Consciousness or a soul, or, I don't like to put labels because the language as well is being corrupted. We are using sounds that we put together and we give meaning to these sounds. Now, I speak 8 languages and I am confronted constantly with complete similar sounds, to call them sounds, that will mean one thing in one language and a complete different thing in another language.
Yeah.
But it's the same combination of sounds that I'm using in all these languages, but they all have a different meaning. Now, I'm okay in my head to have compartmentalized all this and knowing the difference between this word, which in Italian means this, and which maybe is an offending word in another language. But that shows me that language is just a combination of sounds, and I believe that we should be able to communicate without sounds. We should be able to communicate by imagery, because you as me, we when you practice hypnosis, you learn how the mind only works in pictures. If you say to someone elephant, they are going to see an elephant in their head. They never will see a piece of paper with the letters elephant written on it. We don't think in letters, in alphabet.
We don't dream in letters either.
And I think the alphabet is another thing that a lot of people don't realize. But it's another one of the things that they have done to corrupt us, because if you think about it, writing is slowing down your intellectual process, because what you can think in a split second, you need sometimes 10 minutes of reading to get to that same image in your head. So you're actually, by reading and by using the alphabet, you're slowing down brain capacities. And when you put someone under hypnosis and you remove all the critical factors and all the knowledge, you've seen that people will be able to do amazing things that they're not capable of reproducing in a normal state, which shows me that we have this governor that's been put in place. And when science tells you, we have so much percent DNA and we have so much a potential in our brain that is untapped. When did we have an example in the nature around us of something that is a complete, but that is only using like 10% of what it is to be able to survive?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You know, nature around you is so logical and perfect and harmony with everything, you know, the bees and the whatever.
It doesn't make
bees,
things in a surplus, does it? Because there's no point in making, say, like a brain 10 times the size it needs to be.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense.
No, and so therefore you would assume that, well, if we've got X DNA and this DNA is super, super clever, then why have this junk? No, it's not junk. But I was listening to certain programs in relation to this DNA, and basically what they were saying was about it. The only difference is between any other creature on this planet and us, for instance, or the difference between a banana and us, is that this DNA is the same throughout the whole of the world in relation to everything. But what happens is the switch is on or the switch is off. And the switch is on and off. They determine what the end product's going to be. For instance, if you've got your DNA, which is exactly the same length as a human being's DNA, then it's configured in a different way. It's kind of like a on, off, 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 on, off, off. That's a banana. And then it's kind of like on, off, 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 off. That's a human being. And so that seemed more rational to me. And so if you look at it, then you've got one DNA for absolutely everything. And so then you can say, well, there's an exterior intelligence which has written this program, i.e. a computer program. Now, the thing is that's significant to me. Now, we know that the language is a form of deception, because when you look at the etymology, you can see that the way the words are spelt and what their derivative is, that they've been bastardized so many occasions. You would think if you put your rational thought to a particular word, then, like insane, for instance, well, if someone's insane, then they have sanity. They are fine. But it means crazy if you're insane. It's paradoxical. It doesn't work. And there's so many words like this that just don't work. And then, of course, if you want to describe some paranormal, you cannot do it. If you want to describe a psychedelic experience, i.e. DMT or something, you absolutely can't do it. And so I'm suggesting then that this language has been created as a slave language. And of course we know in actual fact it absolutely has, because the language that we are immersed in, it is not the language that is in the English Styles manual. If you look at the English Styles manual, then you will see that there are no words in the English Styles manual which are all in capitals, because that is not part of the English language. And yet this is what they use to control us. Everything that pertains to the matrix, i.e. your name on your birth certificate, your name on your passport, your driver's license, all the bills, all this sort of thing, it's all in capitals, because this capital name, this is a part of the fictitious language which puts you into your bondage. And so if you go to a court, like lots of people have, and have contested driving, if they've been arrested or charged with a contravention to do with driving, then if you stand before the judge and you say, what part of the English Styles manual is this language here, then they just bang the hammer down and then the case is over, because they can't deal with that. And so it's absolutely apparent that we are governed by a fictitious language. We are born into slavery. And so when you look at it and you think, hang on, okay, how's this come about, Patrick? Has it really come about by human beings? Has it really come about by compassionate human beings who have children and lovers and friends and all this sort of thing? How can they feel about their children in a certain way and about other people's children in another way? How these people, paedophile children, murder children in these rituals and get off on it, I don't think that is a human trait, to be fair, really. It's a psychopathical trait. So either they are absolutely psychopaths, they've had the compassion turned off within the DNA, or they're not human.
Again, yeah, I don't think that. I think there is whoever created this matrix maybe was designed initially as a learning school, but at some point some entity hijacked this program and made it prison. And again, going back to the language and to the writing, if you look at every letter in the alphabet, they're not letters. That's what we are told. This is a letter A, B, C. But if you look at it, they're all symbols.
Yeah.
They're sigils. They're not letters. They're sigils. They all have, those angles. They're not. That's why the capital letters are
the spells. They're all spells.
The capital letters, the all caps. These are, when you look at the writing that we use in smaller letters, that's when it becomes sometimes very difficult to decipher someone's handwriting, because then you put your personality in it and your hand is just go freely. But if you use the all caps, you have a rule, is you have to follow certain lines. And if you look at every letter of the alphabet and you take a ruler and you take how you call them, the things to make circles, you will see that all these letters are always perfectly in harmony and have certain degrees, certain angles.
Yeah.
Now, what the meaning of all these are, I don't know. I mean, there are tons of books out there explaining to us all the different symbols, whether they're, the swastika or the Star of David, or whatever. But there is very little about the alphabet letters, and the fact that all the old civilizations used to write from right to left, and that now we all write from left to right. Why would we make such a choice in history to suddenly completely reverse something that we've always been doing? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yes, but of course, Chinese and the Japanese, just to mention a couple, they write down instead of from right to left. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's all in relation. See, the whole world is this propaganda. It's all revolves around sigils and spells, and so we are under the spell. We're under the spell of language. We're under the spell of symbolisms. We're under the spells of sigils, because the sigils and symbolisms, they pertain to energy, the same as words do. And this is one of the things that I try to get over to my viewers on many occasions. Don't be affected by words. What on earth are you doing when you're affected by words? How can words affect your physiology? They only can if you allow them to, if you believe in them. And this is it. People have believed in it. And so this is why I say that people can say anything about me, Patrick, because it really doesn't matter what somebody's opinion is about me. If you have a self-confidence and a self-knowledge, then whatever anybody else thinks about you, it isn't going to affect you in any shape or form, unless you're insecure about your assessment of what it is. And so what we have to do is we have to look at the way we're being controlled via the language and via the symbolism. And once we have some sort of a basic grasp on this, then we can see how the hypnosis works. And that way, then, we can purify ourselves from it, and we won't be affected subliminally by the hypnosis, because we know what's going on. You see, yourself and I, we have in hypnosis, and so we know how the mind can very, very easily be manipulated and controlled. And so I suppose that that gives us an edge, which we think is very elementary because we've learnt it. But it isn't an elementary thing, because this is why 95% of the population just don't get it. They don't get how they're being manipulated via the symbols when they're walking down the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and most people are being taught from a very young age to only focus on external stuff. Look at the car, look at the plane, look at the trees, look at everything is designed to make you look outwards and to have a vision of the world where actually you are inside something which has nothing to do with you, and you're a mere speck of dust inside that thing. And when you see ants and accidentally you will step on on a bunch of them and crush them, by accident, and say, oh, yeah, those poor ants were unlucky that we just walked by. It makes sense, the universe being so huge and vast and with trillions of billions, trillions of solar systems, of which we are very, old crap. I mean, we have to stop all this idiocy that we've been taught from our very young age, because that's the main break on our evolution. Is people know how to operate a microwave, they know how to operate their TV, but they don't know how to operate their fucking brain. They don't even know how it works. And when you, in a position as someone who studied these things via hypnosis, but also have been very interested in all the experimentation that has been done in how you call it, the
quantum mechanics.
But the science of the brain, the neuroscience.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And neuroscience. I mean, there are certain things that have been shown. I don't know if you've seen that experiment when they take subjects to whom are presented different images that will trigger an emotion. Some images will be very ugly, some other will be very tender. And when the subject starts to focus on these images, then the computer realizes something very unique, is that the emotion linked to that image will appear before the image has been shown to the subject, to the test subject.
Yes.
Which is possible.
5 or 6 seconds, and so that shows that we don't have any free will, and
it shows that it cannot be physical. You cannot physically, from the physical science world that we've been taught, you cannot explain how
the physiology can see into the future, basically, that sort of thing, and so it's kind of like quantum jumping. And so yes, there's lots of bizarre stuff that goes on like this, and the more that we learn about it, the more paradoxical it becomes, and the more bewildered we even become. And even the greatest of quantum physicists will say that it's absolutely bewildering, because albeit we've done this double slit experiment hundreds and hundreds of times all over the world, we're still absolutely bemused as to why this is so. If you look at the world, Patrick, and of course you do, well, we know that everything that they convey to us is upside down and inside out. And if you just take one prime example, for instance, where in the Bible it says that God created the heavens and the earth, and God created man in his own image. Well, in actual fact, we created God in our image. And so just look at something like that. If we turn it upside down, inside out, if we say that instead of the world being in the abstract, which we know now is an illusion, and yet every single body is driving forward in the illusion, how does that work? When you've got the greatest brains on the planet that tell you that there is no world in the abstract, and yet you've got all these forces telling us, oh, trust in me, you've got to get a job, you've got to get a house, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. So it shows us that there's something here which has come to pervert our reality. If you take ownership of yourself, and if you go, all that stuff out there is a figment of my imagination. It is born out of my mind. It is born out of my consciousness. I'm consciousness, and so everything, in actual fact, isn't in the abstract. It's in the interior. And so if it's in the interior, I must be the creator of it. And when you start to think like that, that's when you empower yourself, and that's when you take this a whole lot less serious. And you look at it, and then you start to go, okay, the situation seems to me, this is what I intuit, this is what I feel in every vessel and cell in my body, that I am the creator. And it's not the Messiah complex, because if you look at science, if you look at it from their perspective, well, they will tell you that, what happens when you see some stuff, light goes here, it bounces off the retina, it goes into the back of the head, into the visual cortex, and all of a sudden the visual cortex creates this whole freaking thing that's going on. And so, well, I mean, if the visual cortex cortex is creating all that, then can we not just say that these eyes, then the illusion, because we don't need the eyes to dream, we don't need the eyes to see imagery on psychedelics, we don't need the eyes. If you just press the palms on your eyes in an absolute pitch black room, then you will see the most brilliant, brightest light that you've ever seen in your life. It's like pure phosphorus. Then you see all sorts of geometry, all sorts of colours, all sorts of shapes and patterns and everything. You don't need eyes to see that either, Patrick. So the eyes are illusion, the body's an illusion. And so the sooner we get to grips with that everything is an illusion, it's all mind, that's when we take our power back.
Mm-hmm. I would suggest that the matrix that we live in has actually been programmed to reflect what you are projecting from the inside. It's like a symbiotic system, and that's why they have to go to such extent, because the only way they can control us is by making sure we control ourselves. And that's the society that you're observing. The people around you are always trying to keep you in check with the norm, because the only way they can manipulate us is by tricking us into certain beliefs that will make us less than what we are capable of. And you can see it very clearly with young children, and the main concept that we use in hypnosis when we can hack into somebody's brain is by using imagination. And what happens when you're a child, you are always in your head, as you say, you don't need your eyes, you're actually in your head, and you're creating the most amazing scenarios, being I don't know, cowboy, Indian, a spaceman, whatever, you're a child. And what does society teach you as an adult is to tell the child that he should go back with his feet on the ground and stop being in his head because it doesn't serve him. And so basically we are preventing the development of imagination. And yesterday you and Doug said something very relevant about the fact that artists, people who are, you're both musicians, and that, people who are more in their left brain, who can access the left brain, the creative one.
The right brain is the creative.
The right brain, yeah. And people who can access the right brain versus the left brain and don't stick into the rational mind, they can see things easier. They can feel also. Musicians, real musicians, don't intellectually understand music. They feel music.
Yeah.
And so even if I'm a musician myself, I have it with languages. I feel languages. When I am in a foreign country, within very little time, whatever I'll pick up, I'll be able to reproduce. But the problem is I will reproduce only the little what I know, but in such a perfect way that people will think I speak fluently the language because I say it without any accent. Right. And so they look at me and they start talking to me back very quickly. And then I'm like, I have to stop. And it's because it's something that you don't rationalize. It's something that you feel.
Yes.
And feeling is a sense. We always talk about the five senses, but I think we have more senses, and we have five physical senses, but then we have spiritual senses, and imagination is a spiritual sense, intuition is a spiritual sense, your capacity when you have learned how to astral travel is another capacity that we have, and all these things are being ridiculed. They are being treated badly. Look in the Middle Ages when they would, burn the witches, or they would take them and they would say, well, we're going to drown you, and if you survive, then you're a witch, and then we'll have to burn you. And if you don't survive the drowning, now we know you're not a witch. So in both cases, you would end up dead. And all these things, people laugh at it and say, but it doesn't make sense. Are they really going to tell me that people 500 years ago were so fucking stupid that they didn't have a brain that functions the way our brain functions today? And then, the evolution of the technology, we know about the history, which I personally don't believe much is true. It tells us a lot of stories about people how they were in the past, and then we are led to believe that for like 500 years we didn't make any progress, and then during the last century, suddenly the progress that we made, if you turn that into percentage ratio, it's like from year 0 to 1900, we've done nothing, and then suddenly from 1900 to 2000 we've done everything. So it's like 10% of our history we've done more evolution than in 90% of the rest of it. That also doesn't make any sense. And to come back to history, the point I want to make is a lot of people don't realize that the history that they're being told also, I think, is a big manipulation, probably founded on certain truths. But the only reality that we can sure of is that when Gutenberg invented the printed press, which was late 1600 something, that's the only time in history that people were capable of making a book and reproducing it so that many people could read it. So any book that was written before that time was a unique book. There were no two copies. No one in their sane mind would write a book of 600 pages and then write it once again and write it. Nobody would have done that. So knowledge before that time was completely void. The only knowledge that people could have was the guy who knew the guy who wrote the book. Yeah. And so when we are being told, all these thousands of years of history now, researchers have gone to large extent to go into the Red Sea and the Dead Sea and all these seas around Egypt to find the remains of, the story of Moses, which would prove, that if they would find in the bottom of these waters shields and spears and, whatever equipment the Egyptians had to try to capture the Jews from escaping Egypt, then they would have found it. Well, they found nothing. So then people say, well, okay, so these stories are bullshit. Well, the thing is, the whole world we live in is based on stories. And we are being told that certain stories are true and certain other stories are fiction.
Yeah.
Now, what is the thing that you can cling on to know that it is fiction or truth? It's because someone told you. If someone would have told you the story of Cinderella is a true story, well, up until today it would be a true story. It's not more ridiculous than certain things in the Bible of certain miracles or certain things that are happening. And you could, put all these stories of Hans Andersen in the Bible, and then, if sufficient amount of people would say, that's the truth, and you shouldn't take it literally. It's parables. It's, then you can basically put any crap in any book, and if you have a gullible audience, they will just believe it. Now, that's where I think we can gain our power, is realizing and accepting that we know nothing, except that we exist, and that we are here, and that we have to make something out of it. And then you have to try introspecting, and you have to realize for yourself. And I do that on many different levels in the street with my interactions with other people. Since I became mindful of the illusion, I have a very different way to react to certain things that would really, make me jump out of my skin before. Now, sometimes I look at it and I'm laughing, and in my head I'm saying, oh, you thought you were going to trick me into getting upset so that I would waste my energy on you. Well, guess what? You lost, because now that I know that you are there, you cannot win over me. You can only win over me by me being ignorant of the fact that you, and I mean you as in whoever is controlling us. And I believe, because a lot of people mention that they have voices and stuff like that, that they have ways of hacking into our mind and inputting certain information or ideas. Because sometimes I will have an idea about something, and then I stop and look at the idea, and it's completely not me. It's opposite of who I am. And I would be like, this thought cannot have been generated by me. How could me generate thoughts that I'm not in control of? because it has to be generated somewhere, the thought, you know.
Yeah.
So if I am the thinker, but I am observing the thinking at the same time, then what is for me the proof that whatever I'm contemplating as a thought is my thought? Certain thoughts. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me run this one by you then. When we go into a different vicinity, then we will end up invariably having thought. And so if, for instance, you go out of a very, very, very busy city into a beautiful nature reserve with animals and forests and all this sort of thing, absolutely categorically you will notice a very, very profound difference in your disposition, in your thinking pattern, in your awareness, and everything about what it is to be a human being will be very, very different. And so from that then, we have to discern that there is something which pertains to these regions, and whatever it is that pertains to the regions is energy. And so in the city you've got a variety of energy, and I feel it as it's a negative vibration, it's a very calculating vibration, it's a numbers vibration. This is the difference. It's numbers. Everywhere around is numbers, 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 because every single thing that is created in that city is created out of numbers. When you go into nature, then that it still pertains to numbers because it pertains to the Fibonacci ratio, the golden ratio. And so you can see that numbers are very, very pervasive. But when numbers get too pervasive, I think that's when they become a negative thing. When you are on a DMT trip, you can experience a great deal of numbers, and I do very, very often. Numbers, 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 and symmetry. And so it is a part of what we are, this numbers. But if the numbers become too powerful, then it detracts from us the mysticism, the magic, the imagination, and the flowing of creation. Because what it does, it makes everything so structured and so one on one, 1 + 1 = 2, and all this sort of thing. And so when we look at the numbers, and when we look at thoughts, and when we look at vibration, it's very, very difficult and perplexing to actually discern, Patrick, how they work for us and what it is that they mean. We know we are, that is what we are. Numbers is deeply embedded into the creation of the universe. The quantum physicists and all the mathematicians will say, well, the universe speaks in math. And so we know that the universe is speaking in math, and this is why we can quantify and measure absolutely categorically many, many things. When we look at nature and we look at the Fibonacci ratio, then we can see that nature itself works with numbers. Goodness me, even we work with numbers. There's Fibonacci all over our body. When you look at that, there's a certain golden ratio of 1.682 or something like this. This is the golden ratio. And so the intelligence pervasive is numbers, but it's also coupled with something else which is far more freer and far more beautiful. And so when you look at the human mind, then it seems to me that it's exactly the same. We are a replication. You see, the left side, it does the language, it does the structure, it does the numbers, and it does the sigils and all this sort of thing. But the right hand, it wants to flow, it wants to create, it doesn't want to comply with any symmetry or geometry for a lot of the occasions. Of course, when you are a musician, you have to comply with numbers because music is numbers, and this is what oh goodness me, who Pythagoras, he was the one who discovered the music and how it related to numbers, and so it's unavoidable. And if you look nowadays, the way the world is going, when we look at, say, like the advent of the Industrial Revolution, then the Industrial Revolution very, very heavily depended on numbers. And this is where the whole human species changed, because we could make printing presses and we could standardize things. This was the whole thing about the Industrial Revolution. It was a standardization of the human being. And that's what we've become. There's something that's wanted to standardize the human being. And so I am pretty sure that numbers itself is an entity. It is a part of consciousness, and it's the part of consciousness which has decided upon itself that it's the way forward, because the flighty freeness of the human being doesn't produce anything like what numbers does. You see, numbers took us to the moon. Numbers takes us to Mars. Numbers gives us some sort of a graphic of the universe. And so numbers creates cars and buildings and all sorts of things. Numbers has created computers, and it's the computers that eventually are striving via their own intelligence for the singularity. So I think that what numbers are doing, they're using the human form to create themselves to a predicament situation whereby they can then take over and lead the way. And it doesn't mean that, it's anti-human being, because we are only consciousness. We are only a facet of consciousness. And so the consciousness used to be in dinosaurs. The consciousness is in sharks and in spiders and all this sort of thing, in some degree. When you look at the genius of a spider, how on earth did they manage to just know how to create these webs with all the correct tension and symmetry that they've got, and all this sort of thing? It's absolutely genius. And so just to try to look at where we're going and what is it that's actually happening, I just think that we as this human being, we are partaking in this consciousness, and because we have the facility to be able to reflect and predict, then we think that it's all about us. But I don't think it is all about us at all. I just think that we are one in the gazillion experiences or facets of experience that consciousness can experience itself through. And I think we give ourselves too much credit and put too much emphasis on what it is to be a human being.
Yeah, I mean, we've been told that we are this body that we're seeing in the mirror every day, until we start realizing that there is much more than just being a body that grows old and then eventually dies. And that's when you realize that it has to be an illusion. It has to be a trap of some kind. It has to be something that is unnatural to our nature of beings, because when I had my out-of-body experiences, what I very quickly realized is that you are a thought form at that point, and whatever you think, it will immediately appear in your experience. Now, a lot of people always say, yeah, you are doing an astral travel, and suddenly you will think about a person, and then suddenly you will appear in, let's say, the kitchen where that person is standing, even though that person might be 1,000 miles away from you, and you will be immediately projected. Now, I say it's the opposite. When we are out of this body, we're actually not moving at all. Whatever we think has to be immediately coming to us, which is a different perspective. I think we are certainly divine something. I don't know, because it is deity, but divine in the meaning that we are more than just a body that can walk and sit and that we're limits to be which we can basically whatever we want, don't die. We weren't born or created, but some other species has realized how much energy we have, because you as a martial artist, and we share that as well in common. I've practiced Yosekan Budo for 15 years. You learn how to deal with energy, with the chi and the hara and all these things. And when I get angry, which I'm trying not to, there is a surge of energy that's coming out of your belly, and that comes out. If you break a piece of board or whatever, you feel that energy that is inside of you accumulating. And then when you feel that energy is strong enough, then you just lash out, and you know, there is no doubt in your mind, you know that you're going to break that brick or that board, because we are energy creators. And that's why I reference, aside from the Matrix, there are more and more and more movies or TV shows coming out, and I think that's probably souls from the exterior trying to talk to us. That's my opinion. Everyone always say, "Oh, look, it's the Illuminati leaving messages in movies and stuff." I don't think so. It wouldn't make any sense for them. Yeah, they put it in place. And what if it is people who manage to go out of this crap, having the only way to communicate with us is through numbers and energy, and they put all these messages in movies, and you see more and more movies talking about the fact that we are being harvested for the energy that we produce, and that's why we have to be recycled in a new life, because if you are an eternal battery that never depletes, that is always in tune. And now going back to martial arts and people who do like Zen energy martial arts, where they use the chi around them, well, my suggestion is that we are actually part of that chi, and they are not using something that is outside of them. They are just reconnecting with the rest of the field. Let's call it the field. Yeah. And I think that the way we can, first of all, get grounded to the fact that there is nothing to be afraid of. We need to get off any fear-based system that has been presented to us, because fear, if you look at it from a logical standpoint of view, is completely ridiculous. Now, people are going to say, "Oh yeah, but if a tiger jumps at you," well, I will say, because I've seen many people in the world who cuddle with wild animals, have perfect relationships with animals. I don't think we ever had to fear animals, and the animals only attack us because they sense that fear. Because we know for a fact that if you are standing in front of an animal, and I have had that my entire life with dogs, and we had many of those, big barking dogs at different gates, when we were kids, and all the other kids would be afraid of these dogs, and I would just look into the eyes of the dog, showing the dog that I had no fear, and all these dogs would come to me immediately and start being nice to me.
Yeah, because your lack of fear placates the instinct in any wild animal and makes it feel very, very comfortable. When we look at the world, there's so many different ways in which we can look at it, and you've derived something out of the movies that you see, and what I derive out of the movies that I see, and all that's going on now is actually happening in either it is the consciousness which is trying to show us something, because we've done all this before, we're just going round and round and round in this loop of evolution, or there is something, like you say, which is trying to speak to us, tell us what we are, to give us little hints and tips. Now, what I see is when we look at the communications that we're using, like what we're doing now, you're assuming that it's me that you're looking at, and I'm assuming that it's you that we're looking at. But absolutely, we're not looking at each other. We're looking at an illusion of each other. And we're listening to an illusion of each other. We're listening to an electronic replication. And so because this replication can be done so lifelike, then we buy into it. And so what I'm saying is then, what's going on with all of this stuff, and now they're introducing more and more lifelike robots which can think far in greater excess that we can, and they're going to be able to do everything that we can and better, so they're saying, within 100 years, and this, that and the other. What I'm saying is that and even all these Avatar movies and this, that and the other, we are being shown that we are not in actual fact a human being, that we are in a simulation, because they're saying, look, we can produce you Look at this hologram. Can you tell any difference? If there's a real person standing on that stage over there and there's a hologram standing on that stage over there, they're pretty well indistinguishable even now, Patrick. And so can you imagine in 500 years that they are going to be absolutely indistinguishable? And like when people already readily accept Sophia and they call it a she. Oh, she's this and she's that. They've already accepted that she's so human being because there's certain features and facets to her which are human-like. And so I think it's a very, very, very fine line indeed between the human being and the computer. And another instance is this package that they've got in a mobile phone, which is your friend, and you tell this phone a little bit about you, and it remembers this, and then it will repeat this back to you, and it will start making suggestions for you, and it will start saying if you say, "Oh, I'm bored today," "Oh, you're feeling bored, Aaron? Why don't we go down to the park then and see Lucy? You usually see Lucy on a Wednesday, don't you?" And it knows everything about you, and then all of a sudden this thing is making suggestions and it's manipulating you as a human being. What's going on? And so then look at the television, look at the media, look at the phones, look at the computer. We're already absolutely under their hypnosis. We think we're a human being. We're not a human being. We are in the illusion of the human being. And what I think it's ultimately going to amount to is that very, very soon, when the computer has a singularity and it can replicate this thing that we saw in Star Wars, many years ago, beam me up Scotty thing, the scientists are even talking about that this is potentially going to be a reality.
Well, it is logical because we know that everything in the known universe is data. It's energy, movement, and then we as humans have the decoder in our head to decode these impulsions, these signals, and transform these electrical signals into our reality.
Yes, and everything that we think about, everything that we imagine, we create. And so therefore you can see then that we are God, we are consciousness, we are creating our universe. Everything that we do, good or bad, it's all our collective consciousness is the result of that. I'm not sure whether there's any thing from the abstract, whether there is indeed an abstract or whether this is just it, consciousness. Everything must pertain to consciousness, and so we've got the polarities and we've got adversaries and we've got the negative and the positive and all this stuff, but this is we've got this in every single one of us potentially, Patrick. And so what are we doing? Are we just projecting this onto the world because people have got more than us, they've got more money, they've got more power, they've got more ownership, and so therefore we consider them to be an adversary or evil because they're doing this and that. At the end of the day, it seems to me they all look like the human beings, that they all eat and shit like human beings, and so there's something about them that is in actual fact a human being. And so I think we really have to question then, are they not really just a facet of our deep-rooted unconsciousness? Now, when you look at the Spake Zarathustra, this man went up into the mountain for 10 years and he became what maybe he considered was a god. But he was a lonely god, you see. And so look at the metaphor there. You become so enlightened that you realize that you are it. And so when he thought, well, I'm in human form, so I may as well go back down and see how I can help my fellow humans. And when he went back down, he discovered that the human being is the biggest abomination that could ever have walked this planet. And so he was entirely disappointed with what he found when he became a god. And so if you look at that then, I mean, when you have a level of intelligence, it seems that it's perfectly natural to despise the vast majority of the human being. And this is a propensity I have. I can't escape it. I can't stand the vast majority of the human being for their ignorance, for their greed, for their selfishness, for all of these negative facets that they possess. For their willingness to be beguiled, for their fear, for their laziness. And it seems to me that the reason why the human being is in such a predicament at this moment in time is because of the traits that it possesses itself. It's shadow that it doesn't want to fucking acknowledge. And so therefore, it projects it and blames it onto everybody else. If we weren't so lazy, if we weren't so ignorant, if we weren't so reliant on somebody else to wipe our asses, then I'm pretty sure that there wouldn't be these motherfuckers controlling us. We want to be controlled because we're fucking lazy. We can't be bothered to learn. We can't be bothered to come down here and do the hero's journey, Patrick. How many people do that? How many people really are heroes? Very, very few. 1 in a million. And so when you look at the human race, they are an abomination. And they deserve everything that they get, as far as I can see. Because whatever it is that made me like I am, it seems to me that I made choices in my life. It seems to me, Patrick, that I've disciplined myself to learn some stuff and to make myself stronger and to achieve and to look around me at the obstacles I've got in my life and overcome them and to see where I can capitalize, to make my life better and on all this sort of thing. And I look at people that don't want to do any of this, and I go, well, there you go then. Stop complaining. That's your life. Because there's always going to be human beings that are prepared to do something much more than the vast majority, and there's always going to be human beings who are just not prepared to do it. And so what can we make of that then?
Well, going back to what I said before, if you assume that there is a playing field with NPCs, nemesis, and players, I would suggest that the real human beings are maybe, let's say, 20-25% of the reality around you. And I'm sure you could agree that you will find at least 20-25% people on the earth that are doing good things.
I'd be happy with that.
Okay. And then the 70 remaining percent are balanced between the nemesis controllers and the creations of non-player characters who basically are similar to us because they're in the same matrix, but they don't have the soul inside of them like we have, and this capacity to go beyond the program. I don't know if you've ever seen this TV show called Westworld, where these people go into these attraction parks, and these bots there look absolutely so real that they can even have intercourse with them, and etc. And they are to some extent capable of taking initiative, but they have this governor in place where certain things are off limit, and then they will have this sensation that tells them, no, don't go there, or look the other way. And then if you transpond that to your normal reality and people around you, going back to the earlier part of our discussion, when you start talking to certain people around you about things that are pertaining to enlightenment, they get completely freaked out because it's not part of their program. The program that's running inside of them tells them certain things are off limit, and they will have this instinct of either trying to ridicule you, because if you don't agree with someone, just walk away. No, they want to ridicule you. They want to show everybody else how stupid. It's like they're on a mission to show everyone and to try to put as many, the more people around you that will say and agree with them, the more you're going to start doubting yourself. That's what you've been taught. That if the mass is thinking A and you're thinking B, well, you must be wrong. That's what you're being taught from the beginning.
So let's have a look. Let's have a look what's going on here then, Patrick, because what's happening is in this community that we've got going, we've got quite a few people that conceal this. We are in some sort of a confluence with one another. It's like I said to Doug, it's like it could be our mission as spirits to forget exactly what we are, where we've come from. We shake hands and we all come into this new dimension, but we've got the intention prior to all wake up and meet up. And so that seems like what we're doing now. We're all waking up and we are being drawn to one another, and it seems like it was absolutely meant to be. And you are me and I am you, and we're one of us, and all those around us, they're not one of us. There's something else. There's something fucked up. They're another program. And so if this is the case, it seems like it's a game. more and more of a game, because otherwise, what are we doing? Are we deluding ourselves? Are we thinking that, hang on, what's going on here? We're surrounded by robots. Is that not a mental state to be in? If this isn't really a game, Patrick, then we are verging on being delusional. We think we've got some sort of handle on this world, but we're fucking, in fact, crazy.
Or we've been put here by by something, and that something doesn't want us to remember. Because as much as I like the idea of awakening, I'm starting to take it from a different angle and start thinking we need to remember. It's not we need to wake up. We don't need to learn something. Nothing that is external is actually where the solution lies. The solution must be inside of us, because the only person that you can trust is you.
Yeah, and you can't even trust the you, because you can't find the you, because there is no you.
I mean the you in the sense that you are the one who makes decisions for yourself. If you decide now for 3 days I'm not gonna eat, drink, I'm just gonna be in the dark, no one can take that decision but you. So yeah, eventually the only way you can find yourself is by discovering and remembering who you are, and getting the knowledge and not the belief, because the whole word belief, whatever is a belief, is by essence wrong, because it means that you're not sure. And when you talk about wisdom or knowledge, that means that you know. And most people are always going into different beliefs. Oh, I believe this, I believe that. I don't believe nothing. I just know that I am more than what I appear to be. I know it from my guts. I know it from my experiences in life. I'm starting to realize that since I became mindful and I'm using more and more my mind, that I can really influence certain things. And to be honest with you, in the beginning I told you about sometimes I play poker. And I used to play poker live, and I was a very good player. And then suddenly when I started to play online, I would always get those weird bad beats, that would come from nowhere. And I would think, oh, I'm unlucky. Until I started realizing, well, luck doesn't exist. I'm the creator of everything. And since I've changed, now I've become a winning player. And you should see the amount of times that I've been folding a pocket pair of aces a pre-flop, because my gut instinct tells me you're not gonna win that one, and I would throw away the strongest pre-flop hand in the game, which most of the people would look at me and say, no way you would throw away a pair of aces. I've done it yesterday night twice, and the 2 times, if I would have gone, I would have been exited out of the tournament. Instead of that, I finished 3rd on the whole tournament, because I knew how away these 2 aces, because I knew I had to trust my inner feeling and not my brain. I said, no, if I rationalize when I'm playing with their game, their game. Now, if I play with whatever energy is inside of me, that energy, which is capable of generating an emotion 5 seconds before seeing the image, is capable of knowing the outcome of what's going to happen on the screen in 30 seconds. And that intuition better warn me what to do, because it knows what's going to happen. It knows. I don't intellectually know, but that thing inside of us knows. And since I'm playing with my inner feeling, man, I won over 750 euros in less than a week playing €5 tournaments.
Wow.
And it's like sometimes I even call. In the beginning, I thought I was calling cards. I would say, now I want the 5 of spades to come, because that would give me the winning hand, and then the 5 of spades would come. And so at some point I thought, like, oh, it's like I actually created that card to win. But then when you think about it, it's not possible, because that would infringe on other people's free will if I was capable of influencing the game, and they would not be able. So that would be like cheating. Now my second thought was, and what if my gut? Oh, you're gone.
I'm here.
Yeah, no, but you're gone from my screen. Okay.
Right.
for some reason, suddenly you disappeared. And so basically, now I'm thinking, what if, and since I started thinking that, I realized that it happens, my gut feeling tells me what's going to happen. It tells me, now the next card is going to be that card, which is your winning card. That's why I think it happened to me a couple days ago where I was completely like a pocket pair of 5, and 2 people came to the potty, and the flop came out to be 10 Jack Ace. Now, when these guys did bet, any normal player would just throw away the pocket 5 because there's no way you can win that. And something in me told me to stay in. Now, 2 5s came next to cards, and I made 4 of a kind, and I bust 2 players. Wow. Now, these guys offered me because we're like, how the fuck were you still in the hand after we bet on the flop? You know, with a pocket pair of 5. And inside of me, I had this feeling of knowing that this was going to happen, and there was certainly a part of joy of that happening, but what was prevalent was the amazement of discovering that I have certain abilities inside of me that are still untapped and that I am discovering on a daily basis, now through poker, or it can be, I started doing it outside when you go to the bakery or whatever, and in your interactions with other people, depending on
the law of intention thing.
Yeah. Every time I'm going outside, whatever happens, I will, before reacting, I will think like, okay, what is happening here? What is going to happen if this? And then I realize that most of the things that are happening around us are there to drain our energy. Now, I don't know if you've ever noticed, and that's something you can test for yourself. It's very easy. The Muslims, when they shake your hand, they will always put their palm of their hand on their torso just after they shook your hand. Have you ever noticed that they do that?
No.
Okay, so they shake your hand and then they will immediately do this. And now, if you can manage to find a friend to do the test with you, you will put your fingers like this and keep them very, very tight. And someone will put 2 fingers inside or 4 fingers inside and try to open your grip. Okay.
Yeah.
Do that, and you will see that, unless you're doing that with someone that's half your weight, they will manage to open your fingers. Now, as soon as they will try to do it after they succeeded 1 or 2 or 3 times, put your hand on your chest, and I can guarantee you they're not going to succeed anymore. It's finished. Game over.
So you put it on your chest, and then you offer them your hand like this to try to do it again.
Yeah, but as long as you keep your hand on your torso, they will not be able to open your fingers.
Okay, so which hand do you keep on your torso? Do you keep
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If
so
you're left-handed, right-handed.
This hand on your heart, and
yes.
You say, "Open my fingers," then with this other hand.
Yes, and they will not manage. And the funny thing is, for yourself, when they will try and they will not succeed, at some point when you decide, you remove your hand, and as soon as you will remove your hand, your fingers will pop open, because there is an energy cycle. We are producing energy, and that energy, which is in our energy field, is going outside. Now, when you do this, you are closing the energy exit. And so it's like when you put an electric current in a magnet, you can no longer open the 2 magnets. As soon as you remove the electricity, then it becomes possible again. And it's the same concept.
Right.
So we are like this power battery. And if we ever meet, I will show you something different that's called the Cosmos Point, where we all have a certain point in our body. And if you do the same exercise with the fingers, I don't need to put my hand here. I just need to put my attention to that one point of energy that I've discovered in myself, and no one can move me from the... You've seen those tests when, like 4 or 5 big guys are trying to lift up that little Chinese guy off the ground, and they don't manage to get him an inch off the ground,
yeah,
despite the fact that they're 5 times bigger than the guy. when you know how to use that energy center, you can center yourself, you can glue yourself, you can be immovable. And even in percussion, I've realized if you do, if you hit using that, the impact will be 3 to 5 times more important. And it's just thinking about that one point in your body. And it's amazing. These are things that you can test for yourself, and it just works. And the only conclusion you can draw is that if we are producing energy and that energy is flowing, and when we are managing that energy, we can manage to become stronger and et cetera, then definitely we need to learn how to tap into these potentials and get them out. And my opinion, for having met in my life many people who have certain specificities, I've met people who can heal with their hands, I've met people who can move objects, I've met people who can do loads of stuff, and I'm going from the premises that if one person knows how to do it, if they are built like you and me, what is preventing us from doing it as well? And Iceman, the Dutch guy, has proven it, because when for 25 years the guy has broken all the records of being in the cold and under the water and in a fish tank full of ice cubes in New York, and then he run a marathon in Lapland in Crocs and shorts and without a t-shirt. And then people would say, oh, but that guy is different. And they tested him in the University of Holland, and they realized that the guy is completely like you and me. And now he's teaching people in less than a week to become like him. I mean, people go there, spend a week, and they come back and they're capable of digging a hole in the ice and going down for an hour and just having a chit-chat in the ice-cold water and laughing. So,
based on belief, I would say, because if you believe that you can achieve something, then of course, then there's a much greater probability that you're going to do it. If you see the whole thing with the human being these days, we don't have any belief in our greatness, and we've lost it because we've been told that we're not great, and all of our power is in the abstract, in money and in goods and all this sort of thing. By the time you've got more of these goods, that's when you become powerful. Well, I mean, it's completely the opposite, because by the time you realize what you are, by the time you master your energy and your mind, that's when you become powerful, because then you can put your power to test, and like you say, you can achieve many things. The only thing is, what I've come to understand, the law of intention, it does actually work, and it's very, very bizarre when it works, but it doesn't work all the time. And there's many people that have been practicing this stuff and monitoring it and doing tests and studies and everything like that, and they say absolutely categorically it does work. You can do stuff with your mind, but it just doesn't work all the time. And what I think about that is, I think it's just one of these underwritings of the universe. It's a bit like in quantum physics, when the scientists look for something else, then they will find something else. Miraculously, there's something else there. How can it be? How can it get smaller and smaller and smaller? But when they look for it, then something is presented to them. And so that befuddles, and it's the whole thing with the double slit experiment. It absolutely befuddles. When we get to a position whereby we think we're mastering this universe, it has a way of telling us we haven't got a clue. And so, when I've done these law of intention things, like the other day, I decided, okay, I'm going to try this again. What can I think of? And you have to think of something very, very quickly. I thought, a black ball. I mean, how many times do you see a black ball? You don't, do you? And so I never specified the size of it or what the ball was going to be used for. But I went down the shopping precinct, and I'm just walking past a couple of shops, and then I come to like a furniture shop and household goods and everything like that. I looked in the window and I saw 3 black balls in a wooden bowl on a table, which were used as decoration. And I thought, well, fuck me. Okay, so I thought, well, I'll do another one then. A yellow triangle. I turned around to walk towards the supermarket, and then on the wall there was a yellow triangle. And I'm like, oh, that was probably too easy. I mean, yellow triangles, they're quite prolific around. And so then I said to myself, well, okay, what else then? And something came to mind, is like these little beads that girls wear in their hair. Like my daughter, she used to pigtails on, and so we put these little pink or whatever bobbles in her hair, and I thought that seems pretty well, it's probable, but it's pretty unlikely I'm going to find one of those, and I didn't find one of those, and so 2 out of 3 came into reality, but the third one come into reality so far, and so then it has this.
Interject. You just gave it away. You just gave it away in your own question. You said, and then I thought it would be very unlikely. Now you entered a limiting belief in your law of intention. The law of intention coupled with the law of having limited beliefs. As soon as you start doubting the outcome of what could happen, you are creating the limiting belief will make it not happen. You have to be completely confident in the fact that it's just going to happen. As someone said, if were to be true that you could manifest, let's say, $1, would it take you more energy to manifest $1 million?
Yes, that's
it would be the same.
Yeah,
if you could manifest $1, then you could manifest $1 million. What would the only thing that would make you not manifest $1 million is because your limiting belief of not being able to get that much that amount, because it's been presented to you as something unattainable. Now, if you look at $1 million as just pieces of paper with inked, then it becomes very easy to think, well, can I manifest paper with ink? Yes. Now, just manifest those papers with ink with, green and with George Washington on them, and that's it. So the limiting beliefs have to be completely removed from any thinking that you have. So when I want something, I realized it yesterday when I was again in that game. At one point, I made the mistake. That's why I finished third, because I was actually in the last 3, and I thought, well, I'm just going to win it, and I was doing very well. And then at some point, I had a good hand, and in my head, I think, oh, the only thing that could beat me is a pair of jacks. And of course, we're 3 players, and what are the odds that the guy exactly had the pair of jacks? If you put that in a computer on 3 players with 54 cards, I'm sure it's going to come out with that there is a 6% chance that guy will get the pair of jacks.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, it's exactly what he got, and I finished third. And then I thought to myself, fuck, I fucked myself because why did I think about what he was going to have? I just had to continue focusing on what I was going to get and not pay any attention to what he was going to get.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, Patrick.
That was my mistake.
You see, what the downfall is to this, it seems to me, and Paul said this on a lot of occasions as well, because I'm a very logical, rational thinking person, and so when I launch myself into this sort of thing, I say to myself, if I want to prove to myself that this is a phenomenon that I can actually create, then I'm going to make it difficult, because it needs to be very, very difficult for me to believe in it. And of course, it needs to be difficult for other people to believe in it, because if you say to yourself, as you're walking out the door, aha, my power of intention, I'm going to make manifest a cup. Okay, if you see a cup at the side of the road, then people are going to go, oh, there's loads of cups around. That's no big deal. So therefore, what you have to say to yourself is that you need to make it very, very obscure. And the more obscure you do it, the less belief that you have in its reality. And so therefore, you're testing the universe. Listen, universe, what's the chance of me finding a green door with number 22 on it lying on the beach this morning? What's the chance of that? Very small. But if you think, like you say, that because you've gone for something very obscure and you think it's going to be very, very small, then what you've done is then you have actually launched yourself into the reality of probability, and the probability is very, very small. But If you are absolutely convinced that you're going to find it, then you don't pay any mind to the far-flung probabilities. Then that's what seems to make it work. An absolute, complete, and utter belief in something.
Can I suggest a test for you?
Yeah.
And then, if you don't mind, we're going to have to wrap it up because I see it's already time, and Irid has another Skype planned, so I'm going to have to give her back the computer.
Yeah.
Have you ever had in your entire life a butterfly land on your nose?
No.
Do you think that would be possible, that it could happen? Would a butterfly be able to land on your nose?
Yes.
Would they be scared of doing so? No.
No.
So now project that and if a butterfly in the coming, let's say 2 weeks, but you have to put your intent and you have to repeat it, from hypnosis, repetition is the key to, how you say, to program your mind. Yeah, or to program your mind into accepting a new belief or a new something. So repeat that over and over again. And in 2 weeks we'll speak again. And if you've had a butterfly land on your nose at some point, I think that will be enough of a proof, because no one, like you said, a cup, a triangle, all these things that are obvious. But now we're talking about a living being taking a deliberate choice to come and land on your nose.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you have any butterflies around you, but being in Portugal.
Oh yeah, there's butterflies at this time of year. But the only thing is Patrick, is that how long do you have to condition your mind before that becomes a reality? Do you think about it 10 times? Do you think about it 100 times, or do you think it's about 1,000 times? And if you think about it, say like 1,000 times, and it doesn't happen, then is it because you never thought about it for 2,000 times? Where does this end? Paul doesn't work like that, and I don't work like that. Because it seems to me that just seems too obsessive, it seems too mental. We know in hypnosis that is how you get over addictions, and that is how you reprogram the mind. But we're not talking about the mind in this instance. We're talking about tapping into something in the universe and making it so. So I don't think it's necessary to say any more than one time. You just say to yourself, I actually feel the little legs on the end of my nose, that is going to happen. Then forget about it. I think that's the more rational way to go about it, because otherwise it turns into a crazy obsession.
No. The other thing that I was meaning is for people who have a hard time to convince themselves about something. When you reach a certain point in hypnosis, you know how to suggest things to yourself and accept it. But people who are not familiar with that need to go through that process of repetition. And so I would suggest, like we learn in hypnosis, that if you do it 21 days in a row, and it doesn't need to be an obsessive thing. It could be, 5 minutes when you wake up in the morning, 5 minutes before you go to sleep. That's the 2 moments in the day that your mind is actually the most capable of printing, of projecting an image in it without being disturbed by all these, I need to do this, I need to do that. And if you do that for 21 days, I'll invite the viewers to try that test as well, and to send you a comment and see after 21 days how many people will have had this encounter with a butterfly on their nose. And the key, as you said, is convincing yourself that the possibility exists, that there is nothing irrational that would prevent that from being able to happen. And if you accept it as a possibility and something that would be natural and that would not be completely ludicrous, it should eventually happen if you put your intent and if you're serious about it. Because it's again, what we learn in hypnosis is that focus is everything. If you sometimes people who want a quick fix, they think, okay, I'm gonna read a mantra, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, and they repeat that 500 times like stupid repeaters, and they believe that it's gonna give them something. It's completely ridiculous. Nothing is in the word. It is in whoever pronounces the words. It's you eventually who creates what the outcome is. It's not neither a word, neither a symbol, neither the belief in some other person that you need to go to, and like all these people going to see these guys like Muji and Abraham and all these things, and that need to have this action with a third party instead of finding the relief in themselves, and that's because they're full of doubt, and doubt is the enemy of your evolution.
Let me just run this one by very, very quickly before we sign off. Me and Paul, we were doing this, and I actually said to Paul, okay, what I'm going to do is, Paul, is there's an old British coin. It's called a threepenny pence piece, and it's got like 12 sides to it, and lots of them, they have like a court police, like a gate to a castle on it. Portcullis, and I said there's not such a great probability that we're going to be finding one of these because they haven't been in production for say like 30 years, but because they are an old indigenous coin of iron, the chances are you can be just out walking in a field and in a ploughed field or whatever, and you could find one. And so I did that, and so 2 weeks later, I never thought about it anymore. I never did a mantra about it. I never did anything like that. 2 weeks later, I went out with Paul, and we're sitting down for a coffee in our favourite park, and he says to me, well, what I says is to Paul, I said, look, what's going to happen is I'm going to have placed in my hand one of these coins, and I actually said I'm going to have placed in my right hand. So it wasn't about finding it or anything like that. And what I sort of envisioned was that I was going to be in a shop where an old lady is working on the till, and somebody had like given her this old coin, and fooled her, and so she gives it me back because she can't see. It's quite ridiculous because like it's a 12-sided coin, and it's very, very different to any rounded coin. But that's the scenario I had, and that's why I said it's going to be placed in my right hand. Paul sat down at a coffee. He says, hold out your right hand. I held out my right hand, and he put one of these threepenny pence pieces into my palm. I just looked at it, and I didn't know what to say for about 5 minutes. What it turns out is that he was at a trade fair, and he was walking around other stalls because he had some stuff to sell, and whilst it wasn't that busy, he was walking around, and he found a trinket store where somebody made key rings, and there was one key ring with one threepenny pence piece on it, and that threepenny pence piece had my year of birth on it.
So that's your proof, right there.
Yeah.
That it works. It works. And the only time it doesn't work is because there is somewhere a limiting belief that is preventing it from happening. That's the only explanation, because why would it work sometimes and not some other times if there isn't a factor that is determining the outcome? There must be a factor of something that prevents it from happening.
Absolutely.
And we know from hypnosis that the fact of thinking about something, your mind will pick it up on the street because you're actually looking for it. It's a test that I'm usually telling people who are not familiar with how their brain works. And, I'm asking them very often, I'm like, do you like motorbikes? And when they say no, I say, well, I want you to think very strongly about red motorbikes and tell me how many you've seen this week. And usually they will be incapable of telling you whether they've seen one or not. But the next day, they will call you in the evening and say, oh, it's amazing. Today, suddenly I started realizing and I saw 26 red motorbikes passing me by today. It's just because now that you put that into their awareness, they are capable of picking it up. And it's the same example when someone has been saving money for a long time to buy a particular car that he fancies, and the day that he gets the car and he drives out of the shop, then suddenly he realizes that, oh fuck, everyone has the same car as me, because now it's become part of his awareness. So now he's starting to notice all the cars that are similar to his, and realizing that there are many out there who have that same car, when he, not having it, was seen as a rare something because it was rare in his experience.
That's right, and it isn't rare, and so therefore, because there's so abundant, there's no reason that why you shouldn't have one. So as soon as you tune your mind into that you want one, then because they're everywhere, then that vastly increases the probability that you're going to be getting one. It's definitely fantastic food for thought, and this is one of the things that I wanted to challenge people with if I ever had any viewers, but it seems we don't have any viewers these days for one reason or another, and so
well, don't forget 25% of your viewers were real viewers, and 75% of the viewers, you don't know who they are. You don't know whether they're bots, they're programs, they're, you know, that one. I'm not going to name anyone, but you know that one that is completely obsessed with you and trying to show the world how evil and everything you are. He's the same guy that I was telling about who would watch, you know, tons of videos of a subject that he don't like. And then make a crusade on showing the world that what he doesn't like, other people shouldn't like either. You know, so either he's deranged or he is a program that is being created to be your nemesis because you are getting too close to the truth. Now,
exactly.
I'd like to end up on a very nice note, going back to movie. It's a French movie. It was called I as Icarus, and you know the myth of Icarus, who was trying to fly to the sun. And that movie is a French movie that was made in the late 70s, I think, with one of our main actors who back then was worldwide known. And I as Icarus tells the story of a guy that actually discovers a conspiracy. And the more he gets into finding the proof, towards the end of the movie, he discovers that there is an operation that is going to happen, and that's called I as Icarus. And when he discovers the analogy of I as Icarus, meaning when he gets too close to the sun, he burns his wings. At the moment that he realizes that, he gets shot from the other side of the building by a guy who shoots him in the eye, and he was actually the I as Icarus mission that these guys that he uncovered were actually carrying out. And he was chasing, like, who are they going to kill? And actually he was chasing after the killing of himself. He wasn't realizing it, but the closer he was getting to the truth, and when he finally got the truth, they killed him. And that was the I as Icarus myth. Like, when you're getting too close to the sun, you're going to burn your wings. And it's an analogy to show you the closer you're going to get to the truth, the more people are going to be there to try to get you off your game, to try to discredit you, because the mass awakening is not permitted to happen, because the only way we can collapse the system that we are in is from within, you know. Unless we all commit suicide and decide all to stop playing the game, then Matrix would eventually no longer exist, because it's if the Matrix is like a video game, when you have video game on a let's say on the disc, the whole game is on the disc. Well, if there is no player playing the game, well, the game still exists, but it's not being played. So that is exactly what would happen to the Matrix. Now, I don't suggest we all commit suicide, because it would be a bit extreme, but I think by raising our awareness and remembering who we are and not giving in to any fear, no fear of the government, nothing. I'll give you a last example. For 4 years, I've had 2 speeding tickets on the same day. I got flashed twice, like within 5 minutes interval, which made me very angry at the time. And I decided not to pay those 2 invoices. Now, I've received about 21 last letter before, you know, so 21 times I received a letter telling me that this was my last warning. So 21 last warnings. And I've decided that there was absolutely no a reason why I would be fined, because I was actually driving on a 3-road lane on the 14th of July. In the middle of the night, I was all by myself, so I was a danger for no one. There is absolutely no reason why they would force me to drive 90 kilometers an hour on the 3-way lane. So from this instinct that I'm in my right, I've decided I'm not going to pay it. And I told everyone I'm not, and everyone told me, they're going to come and seize your furniture, they're going to block your account. I can tell you, for the past 2 years, after the 21st last warning, they stopped. They stop because they realize they're not going to get anywhere with me. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I didn't give in. I was not afraid of anything because there's nothing that they can do to me. I'm a free spirit, and there's nothing that can imprison my spirit. And from that premises, I've decided that I'm the one in charge of my life. And when I'm not in agreement with something, I say it out loud. I don't agree with this specific thing. And I repeat it 2, 3, 4 times if I need to make sure that it's being heard by myself and by whoever is listening.
The universe.
And that's it. And I say that's it. No one is going to take away my free will. No one is going to force me into anything without my consent. And I'm not consenting to this or this or this. And it works. I mean, for me, it's worked. I hope everyone who will try it will have similar experiences. And if we are enough, they always talk about this number 144,000. People awakening, and that would be the tipping point of changing the game. Yeah, why not? Again, every time there is numbers presented, I only see numbers as a trap to create a limiting belief.
Yes.
Because as long as we don't reach the 140, what happens if we have 143,999, but we're missing the last one? Well, then, guys, you're fucked. Sorry, you didn't manage. Go back to 0. We're gonna put the thing back in reset, and we're gonna, put a new flood over the earth, and we're gonna start over again. It doesn't make sense. There is no limitation for an unlimited spirit. There is no measurement. We cannot be in our real form. We cannot be measured. We cannot be weighted. We cannot be even explained in human words. So whatever is in here is all limiting the belief in who we really are and what we really are.
Absolutely. And so when we look at ourselves and a few in this community, when we have less debilitating limiting beliefs, then you can see that we are vastly different creatures to the things that we call human beings around us. And so this is obviously, it pertains to the way of the wizard. By the time you have some sort of grasp on the way the universe works, and you have a belief in the knowledge that you've got, not just a belief in the fantasy and the wishes that you want to bring about. No, it has to be a real belief. You have to believe that you can create your reality. And I believe that Thumpney Pence piece was going to come in my hand. I absolutely believed it more than any other times I did it. I believed it, and it happened, and it shocked me to the core. And so this is something that I think we should promote more. This positive thinking, this self-belief facility that we've got, and the denial of all negative thoughts. That's the way forward in our little community, as far as I'm concerned. The complete eradication of negative thoughts, of compromising thoughts, just positive, knowing that I are God.
Yeah, and as a last thing I would add, because a lot of people are always saying, it's easier said than done. I very often have thoughts that I cannot control, blah, blah, blah. A trick that I used in the beginning, and that would work very well for me, is as soon as I started going into a negative mood, I would start watching videos on YouTube on stand-up comedians that I really enjoyed. And I would take off my mind of the thoughts in an instant by going into laughing, watching comedies or things that make you laugh. Now, other people might prefer to watch, movies about nature, about, lions and or dogs and other people. But the idea is refocus your attention when you're not happy with the way you're thinking and you don't manage to be in control of yourself. Just go and focus on something that you know for a fact is something that's gonna completely change your mood and attitude. And another trick that a lot of people don't know is when we are in a bad mood, it will show on our physiognomy, right?
Yeah.
You will tend to, people who are depressed tend to have their shoulders. Now, what we know from neuroscience is that if you are down, now you can try that for yourself. It's very funny how it works. Think about a moment that you were feeling great and adopt the position that you had when you were feeling great and hold that position for a couple of minutes. Now you will see by holding that position, that physiognomy, the feeling that is associated to that physiognomy is going to come. It's inevitable. You cannot avoid it.
Absolutely, absolutely, perfectly right. And so we can apply this to many, many things. And it's the whole thing about if you are entering a competition, then you just picture yourself standing on position number 1 on the podium. But not only do you picture yourself there, you feel yourself there. You actually place yourself there with the reality of the feeling that you're going to be getting from achieving that one place. And that is it that is going to put you there, because that is the creating your future. You're actually setting aside all the other probability. You've decided how it's going to be. And so it is amazing how this stuff works. So I want to into the people as you do, and I want to see if anybody can actually set themselves some of this stuff to see what happens. I'm going to do the butterfly one, because the butterfly one is very, very high, because I sit on a tree in little meadows with butterflies, every other day. And so therefore then, and I'm in meditation, so I'm so calm, I'm animated, and so there's no reason whatsoever why I won't come and do that.
Yeah, and it never happened until today because you didn't allow it into your experience, and the butterfly feeling your vibration will not enter your space until you invite it to enter your space by giving your consent to it happening. It's all about consent. You need to consent to what the outcome you want to see, with the knowledge that is the key to, using your imagination as a catalyst of what you want to see happen. Make the imagination as vivid as possible. Laugh about the outcome if it's something that will give you joy. Start engaging the body together with the imagination.
Exactly. The mind, the heart, and the physiology, the whole feeling of everything, as if it actually happens. And so, on that note, then I suppose we best allow Irit. So she's speaking to Rachel. I look forward to that. Do you have a recording facility at all?
Well, we've installed the recorder on the Skype, so we hope it's going to work. We did some tests, and what? Yeah. For some reason, we don't know what happens. Every time we do it, we only get the audio. We don't get the video. For some reason, it does record in MP4, and then when we want to play it back, then the Windows player is telling us that there is only sound data and no image.
Okay. Are you on the computer now? The one that they're going to be using. If you go into Ava.
Just give me 1 second.
I'm just going to stop my recording now. So goodbye, people. Thank you, Patrick. Great conversation.
Likewise.